Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Mary Smith. Good evening. It is 10 o'clock p.m. here in Calgary, Alberta. St. Patrick's Day, Thursday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody out there who's celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Glad to be here. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Human Rights Abuse Prevention is Up to Us. It's a 30-minute live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com talking about child abuse. Mainly child abuse. Many people who listen to my shows know that I just want to be one more voice out here, speaking out against abuse, standing up for child rights, and just raising awareness and promoting education regarding child abuse. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we're volunteers, and we're working really hard to try to make a change in this thing for children out here. And I just wanted to be one more voice, to add my voice to everybody else's, to say we've got to stop child abuse. This is really important. Children are dying, and they'll continue to die until we can change the hearts and minds of people, and that's the big issue. It's like people just think they can kill their children, and people think they can just misuse their children in any way, and other people think they can misuse other people's children in every way. It's just horrific, and it's been going on, obviously, since time began, and it really needs to stop. I don't mind saying that. This is the truth. Truth is truth. And I think that it's not an issue that I don't mind talking about because I don't mind tackling it because I was abused as a child, and so I know what these kids are going through out here. And so I don't mind standing up to the plate, stepping up to the plate, and, voicing my opinion on this, It's a serious issue, and kids are dying, and there's a whole lot of attention called to help find the cure for cancer for children, and that's wonderful. That's awesome. I support that as well. There's a whole lot of attention drawn to children around the world who are suffering from malnutrition, and that's very important. I support that as well. I'm also a volunteer for CHF, Canada Hunger Foundation. It's a CHF, which used to be formerly known as Canadian Hunger Foundation. I volunteer with all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? But my main goal and my heart really is with Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and that's who I choose to really do most of my work with. And so, but I mean, these issues, going on around the world with children, it's horrific. But the issue of child abuse is really horrific, and the sad thing is that so many people, when it comes to talking about child abuse, people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to know about it. It's so ugly and heinous and so sad and twisted, and the sad thing is it's going on in homes right next door to us. It's going on down the street in the apartments down the street. It's going on in the schools. It's going on in the churches. It's going on everywhere. It's going on all around the world, And so most people just don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. So it's going to continue on. So we need people to step up to the plate and start talking about, the issues surrounding child abuse, promoting awareness and education regarding signs and symptoms, and talking about this issue, finding out what programs are working, support those programs, get involved in your local communities, get involved with, whatever's going on in your area, and find out who's doing what, and then support it. These people need your help. We need your help. If we're going to stop child abuse, it's going to take all of us, right? Including the people who are abusing their children. They're the ones that are going to have to stop abusing their children. And we're going to have to get to the younger generations and help to teach them that child abuse is wrong, to show them some healthy parent-child relationships and what their job, their role is as a parent. And that is to be protector, you know what I mean? Parents are not supposed to be abusing their children. It's against the law, first of all. And second of all, it's just wrong. It's just incredibly wrong. So that's why I don't mind standing up and talking about this. It's so important that people do get involved where you can, Not everybody's got a whole lot of money to donate, and most people don't have a whole lot of time. But I think it's just learning the signs and symptoms and knowing, to keep an eye out for the children in your own life, to make sure that they're not being abused. And if everybody was doing that, we could stop a whole lot of abuse, right? So it's just important to know, that we need to be the eyes and ears of these children out here to protect them. You know what I mean? So yeah, tonight I want to talk about. It's a PDF that I was talking about on Tuesday night, and it's an interesting PDF. I've got it from the Child Welfare Information Gateway, and I'm on that website quite a bit. They have some awesome publications and information. The Child Welfare Information Gateway, childwelfare.gov. That's www.childwelfare.gov, and you can go on there and find all kinds of great information regarding child abuse prevention, and just tons and tons of resources for people. So that's where I pulled this from. This is called Child Abuse and Neglect by Parents and Other Caregivers, and it's 30 pages long, this PDF, so we'll cover the whole thing. We started looking at it on Tuesday night, and so I wanted to kind of continue on looking at it. We're on page 4, and they're talking about the extent of the problem, fatal abuse, non-fatal abuse, and just sort of going through what they found in their studies and whatnot. The WHO, the World Health Organization, and other, national and federal groups that have done some studies, and they've gone through and listed some of this stuff. So they said the extent of the problem, fatal abuse. So yeah, you have to listen to my show at your own discretion. I'm talking about abuse, and I don't sugarcoat it. I don't minimize it. I just tell it like it is. And the subjects of abuse are very sensitive. So if you find that the show, if you think abuse topics might bother you, then you need to turn the show off. It is your discretion to listen to my shows, all of my shows. And young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have a parent or caregiver give you permission to listen to my show, because I believe in protecting children at all times. So you have to get permission to listen to my show and let somebody know what you're listening to, what you're doing online, and learn to keep yourself safe online. It's very important. You want to know how to. Internet safety is huge. FBI has a great website, FBI.gov. They have a great resource on there for parents and children regarding internet safety, and they do talk a whole lot about what is actually happening out there. So children, if you're listening to this show, young people under the age of 18, you need to have someone listen to it with you to make sure that they think it's appropriate for you to be listening, because age appropriately, I don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows, right? So make sure that you do that. Protect yourself and keep yourself safe at all times, right? So I'll get right into this show here. This fatal abuse, they said information on the numbers of children who die each year as a result of abuse comes primarily from death registries or mortality data. According to the World Health Organization, there are an estimated 57,000 deaths attributed to homicide among children under 15 years of age in 2000. And global estimates of child homicide suggest that infants and very young children are at greatest risk, with rates from the 0 to 4-year-old age group more than double those of 14-year-olds. And that's just, coming from statistics from reporting that they have done over the years, that they found that the most vulnerable children to fatal abuse, to die from the abuse or to die because of the abuse, would be from 0 to 4 years old. That's kind of sad, the headlines that roll in. We cover the headlines on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio here, and I host that show as well. I just got off that show, actually, and tomorrow night we'll be covering the headlines. And, it's horrific to see this, little babies and children, little toddlers, 2-month-old, 3 months old, 6 months old, a year old, 2 years old. So many children dying needlessly at the hands of parents. Many times it's a parent or singles or two parents, or it's generally a family member. Very, very sad. Sometimes it's a stranger, but it's almost always a family member. 90 to 95% of abuse happens within the home. Roughly 31 to 33% is a family member, a direct family member. So that'd be a parent, one of the parents or a sibling, and the other 60% being somebody that the child knows and actually has access to that child. So, it's pretty horrific. And they said the risk of fatal abuse for children varies according to the income level of a country and region of the world. For children under 5 years of age living in high-income countries, the rate of homicide is 2.2 per 100,000 for boys and 1.8 per 100,000 for girls. And just giving some information, some wide statistics in this PDF, but it's sad, really. It says low to middle income countries, the rates are 2 to 3 times higher, 6.1 per 100,000 for boys and 5.1 for 100,000 per 100,000 girls, right? The highest homicide rates for children under 5 years of age are found in the WHO African region, 17.9 per 100,000 for boys and 12.7 per 100,000 for girls. And the lowest rates are seen in the high-income countries in the WHO, European, Eastern Mediterranean, and Western Pacific regions. So they said many child deaths, however, are not routinely investigated, and post-mortem examinations are not carried out, which makes it difficult to establish the precise number of fatalities from child abuse in any given country. Even in wealthy countries, there are problems in properly recognizing cases of infanticide and measuring their incidence, and significant levels of misclassification in the cause of death, as reported on death certificates, has been found. For example, in several states of the United States of America, deaths attributed to other causes, for instance, sudden infant death syndrome, accidents, have often been shown on reinvestigation to be homicides. So that's just it. They're getting better and better at being able to recognize if a child has been murdered, and an infant or a child's been murdered. They're getting so much better at recognizing whether it's a homicide or whether it's an accident or whether it's just natural causes. But there's still some that are reported quickly, and they do There has been some talk about that. It's so harsh, so horrific. Despite the apparent widespread misclassification, there's general agreement that fatalities from child abuse are far more frequent than official records suggest in every country where studies of infant deaths have been undertaken. Among the fatalities attributed to child abuse, the most common cause of death is injury to the head, followed by injury to the abdomen. Intentional suffocation has also been extensively reported as a cause of death. And head injuries are just so, we've seen a lot of that lately in the headlines. Many children dying because of blunt force head trauma to the head, and it's so sad to think these little babies, they're not they never get the chance to live, never get the chance to grow up. They just, they've been killed and murdered, whether it was intentional or the abuse just went too far, but the child ends up dying, and very, very sad. Many of them are, just small little 2-month-old babies, right? It's absolutely horrific. They said non-fatal abuse, data on fatal child abuse and neglect come from a variety of sources, including official statistics, case reports, and population-based surveys. These sources, however, differ as regards their usefulness in describing the full extent of the problem, they said. Official statistics often reveal little about the patterns of child abuse. This is partly because in many countries there are no legal or social systems with specific responsibility for recording, let alone responding to reports of child abuse and neglect. In addition, there are differing legal and, let's just scroll down here, cultural definitions of abuse and neglect between countries. So there's also evidence that only a small proportion of cases of child maltreatment are reported to authorities, even where mandatory reporting exists. And, they talk a whole lot about children around the world, right? That's why I think it's very important to bring this sort of to light. Mainly what I focus on with and Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, we are working with, in North America, United States, and I'm in Canada. And it's, there's so many, even though the situation is bad here, it's extremely bad. It's a crisis. It's still better than so many places around the world where children are just killed every day, and there's no one's brought to trial. There's no justice for that child. Children are abused every day in every way, and there's no help for them. There would be no support systems. There would be no programs put in place to be able to get those children out from the abuse in many countries. So it's very, very sad because those children have no help unless somebody steps in to help that child. And even in the United States, we think about how bad it is here. So then you think about how bad it is around the world for these children. Absolutely horrific. So that's why it's important to realize this, it shouldn't even be happening. It shouldn't be happening anywhere, and it should, especially in North America, with the levels of education and the programs out there, and the ads. And the April is Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month in the United States. It's like a whole month devoted to preventing and stopping child abuse. And it's like, you'd think with the $105 billion being spent annually in the United States alone, $105 billion, because of child abuse, that people would clue in and realize that child abuse is wrong and that they shouldn't be abusing children, but they still do. Parents and other people, caregivers, and anyone who has access to a child who is an authority, because obviously adults are in charge, but being in charge does not give them the right to abuse their children, right? Now there's a real big difference between abuse and discipline, right? And a lot of people think it's just discipline. They think that what they're doing by burning their children, by disfiguring their children, by battering their children, psychologically battering their children, physically beating their children, sexually molesting their children. They think this is okay, right? This is, they don't feel that they've done anything wrong. And so many times, when they get brought into court, and they're facing charges for the abuse, they still defend the fact that they were just disciplining their child. You know what I mean? As the child lies in the morgue, So you start reading some of these horrific child abuse headlines, you start getting a real clear picture of what's happening to children out here. I was a survivor, so I know, and anybody who listens to my shows gets to hear the whole full, story because I'm telling it like it is. And it's horrific what people do to their children. That's why I'm public, and that's why I went public with my story, and that's to be one more voice out here, because there's a lot of survivors who are speaking up and speaking out about the abuse that they suffered, because trying to raise awareness to the public of how serious this really is, and that these little precious babies out here that are being abused right now need help. And if there's no help for them, they could be killed. They could die. they could lose their lives at the hands of their parents and caregivers. If they don't die, they're just going to suffer on and be, whether they live, to a ripe old age, they're going to have to deal with the leftovers as an adult survivor of child abuse. Right? It's horrific, and this is the issue. These children out here do not deserve this. There's no reason for abuse. There's no excuse for abuse. It's choice. And when you start looking at what abuse is, it's quite interesting. A lot of people don't even understand what abuse is. They think it's something that people do when they lose control. But they don't realize that abuse is actually a choice, and it's something that people do to stay and remain in control. So people have a complete wrong idea about abuse, even when it comes to domestic violence and abuse, and child abuse. It's all about control. It's not about losing control. And so I think it's just a lack of education, and people just don't realize, what this actually is all about, right? But as a survivor, I know exactly what this is all about. And I knew so many children who were abused. I grew up with a whole lot of my friends who were abused. I mean, abuse has been part of my life, my whole life. And so I've had to deal with this. So that's why I don't mind talking publicly about it. But the issue is, so many children out here are going to lose their lives tonight, around the world. We're not just talking North America. Around the world, needlessly, all because someone decides that they should bash their head in, or that they should sexually use and rape a child that's 2 weeks old, right? This is what people do. Believe it or not, just check out some of the headlines. These are parents doing this to their children, mainly. Sometimes it's rare, but once in a while it's a stranger, but it's almost always the parents, right? Or caregiver, boyfriend or girlfriend of a parent, a single parent, right? Or a partner of a single parent. Or the parent themselves, or both parents, right? Absolutely horrific. Sometimes it's the grandparents, and sometimes it's the other family members. And it's just wrong. It's so incredibly wrong. And why should a child have last view be their parent bashing their head in, right? I know as a child what it's like to be abused, so I know some of the beatings that I took that I was thinking, one more blow like that, my head's going to go. Your head can't take that kind of blow, from a heavy object or being slammed into walls. Your children's heads, no one's heads can take that, not even an adult, right? So you think about what that damage does to an adult, and then you think about a child and how defenseless they are against somebody who weighs a couple hundred more pounds than they do, or 100 more pounds than they do, and who has a whole lot more strength behind it. Children just cannot, their bodies cannot take this stuff. And why any parent thinks that it's okay to do this to their child, any type of abuse. I don't care what it is: verbal, emotional, psychological abuse, neglect, child sexual abuse, child physical abuse. I don't care. I'm a survivor of all of it. So, it's all incredibly damaging, and it all takes a toll on the child. If it doesn't kill them, it will kill them. It will kill them spiritually. It will kill their spirits. They're just walking shells, having to pick up the pieces from something that was not their fault, and that they had no control over, and it's and have to live with it. And why parents think it's okay, why caregivers think it's okay to do this to their children, I'll never understand. And it just breaks my heart that there's kids out here right now going through this, and there's no help for them. There was no help for me. So, but I survived. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm happy to be able to do this. But so many won't survive. And so many will kill themselves. 2 of my brothers killed themselves. So, so many one of my sisters actually tried to kill herself, but she's gone now. She died of cancer. And, suicide was rampant in my family, and just from the abuse that we suffered and the choices that our parents made, which were all wrong, right? So it's incredibly wrong. And these children out here, many of them will not get help. There'll be no help for them. Nobody will step in. Nobody will make the phone call. Nobody will do the right thing by these children because they don't care. It's either they're not their problem, or they don't want to interfere in the family's situation because they think, I don't want to break up the family, so they'll let the child be killed or raped or whatever, sexually used. It's horrific. As a society, why are we allowing this? Why are we saying that it doesn't matter? Why are we not all doing something about this? Because it's within our own homes. That's why. It's happening so close to home that people don't even want to deal with it. It's like, let's just be in denial. Let's pretend this isn't happening because last week I saw so-and-so slap my son around and I didn't know about it, and out of fear or out of some sort of what will we do if one of the parents has to go to jail. Who's going to pay the bills? It all comes down to a whole lot of other things except for that child, and that's the issue, right? The children don't mean much in the grand scheme of things, right? And thank God for all the good parents out there, man. I'm telling you, I didn't have any good parents. My two parents were about as evil as they come, but I know there's good parents out there, and so I'm very thankful that for all the people out there who truly do the right thing by their children, and when they make a mistake, they make it right. They straighten it up and they fix it and they make it right. And it's like, I know there's good people out there and there's good parents out there, so that's awesome. But I'm talking about these people who would kill and abuse, maim, torture, sexually use their children and think it's okay, right? And this is all around the world, not just North America. This is so wrong, and it's got to stop. And I don't mind saying we should be the generation to do this. Why not? Why not? If we all stand up and do our part, then we can make a difference in this. But it's going to take so many more of us, you know what I mean? So that's why I thought, hey, I don't mind. I'll get involved. I'll raise my voice and I'll start talking about this stuff because I know what it's like to have to live through this. And so, I used to wish for death. That's the sad part. By the time I was 10 years old, I was wishing my mother would kill me. I used to tell her, go ahead and kill me. You already killed me anyway. I'm already dead. Go ahead. And years later, at the age of 20, being threatened by my friend's boyfriend because I was trying to protect her from being killed by her boyfriend, right? I just told him, go ahead and kill me. I don't care. I'm already dead anyway. You know what I mean? I've lived my whole life with this. And, no child should ever have to feel like that. No child should ever wish for death, right? This is so incredibly wrong. And yet people just don't care. Yeah, that's not my child. I don't have to worry about it, No, all these children are all of our children. And this world, we are all one on this planet. And when we're living, all the people that are living here at the same time, we are all one. And we all should be looking out for each other and doing the right things by each other. And that's what's wrong with this world. And, it's so sad that people would choose to hurt somebody, and especially their children, or somebody else's child. There's a lot of sick and twisted people on this planet. And the rest of us, the people that just stand by and don't care, they're not helping the situation. Because we need your voices, right? We need everybody's voice to stand up and say we've got to find the programs that are going to work to stop child abuse. Because there's lots of programs, there's lots of great programs out there. But the thing is that they're not funded. So there are only a small few 80 to 200 children are affected, which is great because their lives are changed, and that's wonderful. They have a better life, no abuse. But the rest of the country, what's going on with that? You know what I mean? Like, why does government consider this an issue when 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused in some way under the age of 18? Why? And this is statistics in the United States. 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused in some way under the age of 18, whether that's unwanted sexual touching, sexual molestation, exploitation, rape, you name it, right? 90 to 95% of abuse is happening within the home, right? And 33 to 40% is a parent or some direct family member, brother, sister, parent, And then the other 60% would be somebody like an aunt, uncle, grandpa, right? And yet society just thinks this is okay. The government thinks it's okay that there's 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys who will be abused sexually under the age of 18. No, this is not okay. I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse, so I know what this is all about. And it's not okay. Why is society thinking that it's okay? Why is there a huge groups of people backing up child sexual predators and pedophiles? Why does the government think it's fine? Those statistics are unacceptable. This is unacceptable. The statistics for all the different types of abuse, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional, psychological abuse, neglect, and child sexual abuse, when you look around, you can see that they're just about the same as the child sexual abuse statistics. They're 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 to 7 boys will be abused in some way under the age of 18. So it kind of matches the child sexual abuse. And 90 to 95% of that abuse is within the home. So see, this is why this is a problem, because no one wants to straighten up their own homes. They're just going to live in denial and allow the abuse to continue, mainly due to a lot of times out of fear, because of the abuser, or the shame involved in reporting and getting help. and actually having to confront the issue and confront the abuser. Nobody wants to have to do that, but you know what? You have to, because it's a law, right? You have to report abuse. When you know about abuse, you have to do the right thing and you have to report it. And you have to get that child some help. That's the main reason, is to get that child some help, right? I mean, I talk about this on my morning shows, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, because it's my healing journey, and I'm talking about this stuff, right? And I was sexually abused by a sibling, by my brother, and I told my mother because I was in pain, right? So I told my mother what was going on, and she told me it was my problem. I was going to have to deal with it. It was not her problem, and my mother was my main abuser, so obviously I didn't push it with her, and I just let it go, because she just quickly told me, that's not my problem, that is your problem, you deal with it. And she said, wrap yourself up like a mummy or something when you go to bed. That was her advice to me, in order to protect myself from my brother, who was sexually abusing me. And instead of fixing the situation, she didn't want to deal with it. She was my main abuser, who was beating me on a regular basis and almost broke my nose, she did break my head open. I didn't share with her. I was like, okay, well, that's the answer I got, so I'm just going to take that, and I guess I just have to suffer on in this, And so many times people know about abuse, they don't do anything about it, right? They just allow it to continue, and that child will just suffer on, and if they're not killed, right? I mean, our lives are being threatened on a daily basis, so, that's why I was telling my parents, go ahead and kill me. I was like, if you want to kill me, go ahead, I don't care. I'm already dead anyway, But so many children will lose their lives tonight at the hands of people who have no business doing what they're doing to their children. And there'll be a whole lot of people who will know about the abuse and won't make the phone call, because they don't want to break up a quote-unquote happy home. Well, abused children are not happy. I'll tell you that right now. And we need to do something about this, and we need to start in our own country, North America, and we need to take it worldwide. And Dreamcatchers for Abused Children is doing just that. But the issue is that it's a slow process, because there's only so much funding, there's only so much help, and there's only so many people willing to stand up and say, hey, we've got to stop child abuse. It's very rare to find somebody who has the guts and the strength within themselves to say those words. Those words are very hard to say, and it's because society will look down on you if you say them. If you actually walk up to somebody and say, hey, hi, I'm so and so, and I work to stop child abuse. I know, I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and this is what I do. And I walk up to people and I'll tell them, I give them my card, my business card, and I'll tell them, hi, I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. We work to stop child abuse. And you should see how many people just look at me and they shy away. They right away, they want to run, right? They want to run the opposite direction, screaming, whoa, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to know, right? And I'm thinking, well, when I was a child and I was having my head busted in by my mother, and blood running down my face and pouring all over the floor, and got thrown out of the house and spit on and beat on and kicked around, and beat on by my father and sexually used by my brother, I tell you, I sure didn't want to have to deal with it. You know what I mean? So it's like you can stand to talk to me for a half an hour. I mean, it's like, my God, these poor kids out here, they do not deserve this, right? Do whatever you can. Get involved in your own areas. Get involved locally with your own, the different children's hospitals and different things. Quite often, programs that are out there that people can get involved in just to make a difference. Show up on a Saturday, a couple times a year to get involved to promote education and awareness regarding child abuse, right? And just, get involved with your own children. If you have children, make sure that they're not being abused, and make sure that you know the signs and symptoms of abuse and how to report it, and that you should report it. And, look out for the kids in your world. Make sure that they're not being abused, right? If you know the signs and symptoms, you can stop a lot of it. Many children will not disclose the abuse, and even if you ask them, they won't. It's better to not investigate, better just to make the phone call and get that child some help, right? Have a great night, everybody. I'll be back on Saturday morning really early for my show, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and I'll be back on tomorrow night, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio here on Blog Talk Radio, and also on the weekend you can check my show page. So have a great night. Happy St. Patrick's Day again, and take good care of yourselves. Talk to you soon.